I never imagined getting yelled at by a billionaire would lead to a life-changing friendship. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a night like no other. The wind howled, rattling the windows. I stood there, right outside the grand hall of his penthouse, battling my nerves. I trembled as I pushed open the ornate door, stepping into a sea of glitz and glamour. The air was thick with tension, laughter intertwined with murmurs of shock. There he was, Nathan Hackett, the elusive billionaire, like a storm cloud in a suit. His blue eyes, piercing and cold, scanned the crowd before landing on me. My heart raced. I felt ridiculously small. The kind of small that has you wishing you could disappear. I was just here for a friend, and suddenly, I was the focus of his wrath. Who let you in? His voice boomed, filling the space with an energy that made everyone pause. Whispers erupted, eyes darting toward me with a mix of empathy and sheer disbelief. I could feel my cheeks burn, tears threatening. How had I walked into this nightmare? Just last week, I was bartending at a dive bar in the city, dreaming of a better life, of adventure. Now, I was caught in a crossfire. It was an absurd twist of fate. Nobody ever got to meet Nathan, he was an enigma. Yet here I was, collateral damage in his chaotic world. Cynthia, my loudest cheerleader, had convinced me to come. "You'll never know who you'll meet," she'd said, her voice ringing in my ears. She was right. But this wasn't what I imagined. The room was foggy with champagne air, and I couldn't think straight. One minute I was sipping on cheap cocktails, the next, I was at the center of the billionaire's gaze, feeling like his next target. "Get out!" he shouted, and I froze, a lump forming in my throat. Was this really happening? A roomful of whispered conversations surrounded me like a storm. I stumbled backward, scanning for a way out, but then, just as quickly, something shifted. The crowd gasped collectively, a crush of footfalls and nervous laughter breaking the tension. Nathan's expression morphed from furious to confused. Was he really just a man, like any other? I could see uncertainty flicker in his blue eyes. Had he just lost a bit of that billionaire bravado? Before I could comprehend what was happening, he took a step toward me, a flicker of something softer showed on his face. Curiosity? Regret? I couldn't tell. The noise around us faded to silence. Every heartbeat felt alive in the quiet. I felt something shift, a charge in the air between us. I wondered then, could this moment really lead to friendship? Or was it just the beginning of a chaotic storm? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence between us felt brittle. Nathan's eyes, once sharp and accusatory, now held something vulnerable, a flickering light amidst darkness. I took a breath, feeling time stretch and warp. Maybe curiosity was the catalyst for the unexpected, yet I could still hear the hushed conversations spiraling in the periphery of the room. "Can we talk?" Nathan's voice was lower now, almost subdued, like falling leaves whispering against the pavement. He stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of his cologne, something dapper and refined. Despite the chaos, I found myself nodding, frozen by an instinct to bridge the chasm that had opened up between us. That he led me out of the fray and into a quieter alcove, far from the glittering chaos of the party. The contrast was surreal. Soft lighting and muted voices enveloped us, a clear horizon against a storm rolling just outside. Nathan tilted his head, studying me like a painting had been ambivalent about. "I'm sorry about that," my outbursts, he began, pulling his hands into the pockets of his tailored trousers, a vulnerable stance for a man who seemed so unyielding before. "It's fine," I managed to say, though the tremor in my voice suggested otherwise. I wasn't expecting to be the star of the evening. He chuckled, a sound that grew softer as it echoed through the intimate space. You were brave. Not many people charge into my life and throw caution to the wind, he admitted, his expression warming slightly. I could see an internal conflict warring behind his eyes, like storm clouds looming on the horizon just before rain fell. Before I could respond, a waitress passed by, trays of dainty hors d'oeuvres in hand. Nathan's expression soured momentarily before he nodded her away. A gentle sliver of sadness washed over his features as he resumed our conversation. I've been dealing with a lot lately. Sometimes, I forget that humans exist beneath the surface of these. He gestured dismissively toward the party, as if conjuring up the lives of the elite with a wave of his hand. I'm sorry if I made you feel less than valued. Or made me feel like a punchline, I shot back, the frustration bubbling just beneath my surface. I didn't come here to be humiliated. I came for an escape. Just like everyone else. My heart raced with the intensity of the moment. Could I afford to be honest with him? He ran a hand through his tousled hair, the gesture almost boyish, revealing a side of him I hadn't anticipated. I get it. It's just, he started, glancing away briefly. It's hard to loosen up when you feel like everyone's out to get you. We stood there, suspended in time. My anger battled against warmth in my chest. Maybe I had been too hasty in my judgment of him, the relentless billionaire whose life I had imagined was laid bare before me in a way I never expected. As we spoke, a connection flickered between us, fragile yet promising. Nathan looked surprised, perhaps even a little grateful, that I were still here, standing in front of him despite everything that had just happened. For a fleeting moment, normalcy intruded upon the chaos surrounding USA-friendly dialogue that hinted at something deeper. But just as quickly as the warmth enveloped us, a harried individual burst into the alcove. A young woman, cheeks flushed and eyes wide with fright, urgently approached Nathan. Nathan. We need to talk. It's about the merger. It's gone south. The weight of her words crashed down on the fragile spark between us. Nathan's face hardened instantly, an armor slamming down around him. Not now, he snapped, his voice returning to that intimidating timbre. The young woman recoiled slightly but pressed on. It's urgent. I can't, I said. Not now. He interjected, and I felt a pang in my chest as his gaze darted back to me, the sudden shift in energy turning the warmth of our moment into something cold and distant. I should go, I murmured, knowing that this was my cue to retreat. Wait, he began. But the moment had dissipated, and the illusion of a budding friendship evaporated much like the champagne bubbling in flutes around us. As I stepped back into the sea of glitz and noise, my heart felt heavier. The glances of curious party guests slashed at me like thorns, and for the first time, I questioned my own worth amidst the chaos. Instead of the adventure I had sought, I found myself drowning in the weight of unfulfilled possibilities. Just as I turned to flee into the crowd, a hand closed around my wrist. I faced Nathan again, the longing in his eyes pulling me back. I want to make this right, okay? He said, his voice earnest. But the optimism was laced with uncertainty, like flickering lights before a storm. I don't know what that means, I replied, feeling lost once again. Just give me some time, he implored. I promise you, something real can come from this. The weight of his words hung in the air between us, but before I could respond, a fight broke out in the main hall. Shouts erupted, and panic punctured the atmosphere. I turned instinctively, adrenaline surging through me. Before I could comprehend the situation, Nathan squeezed my hand, urgency lighting his gaze. Stay close to me, he commanded, and as chaos erupted, I clung to that little warmth, desperately searching for a spark amid the storm. Would it be enough to guide us through this tempest? The tension hung palpably in the air, shooting through the lavish hall like electricity. People scattered amidst the chaos, their laughter turning into frightened gasps as flailing bodies swept across the dance floor. I barely registered the scene around me. My mind was consumed with the two conflicting worlds. Nathan and I sailed between, one filled with extravagance and the other submerged in confusion. Stay close, he reiterated, his grip tightening around my wrist as he pulled me toward the back of the room. We ducked behind a towering potted plant, its leaves thick and sheltering, blocking us from the pandemonium that erupted once more just a few steps away. What's happening? I asked, my voice almost lost against the overlapping shrieks and boom of shouting voices. Nathan's jaw clenched, a flicker of panic darting behind his cool facade. Just people letting off steam, he said, though the tightness in his tone suggested he knew it was more than that. His eyes darted towards the main hall moments ago filled with laughter and dancing. Now, it was a battleground, chairs overturned and drinks splashed across polished floors. That fraught moment, a sudden weight settled heavily in my chest. Maybe the bruises I bore were hidden beneath his wealth, but the scars of my own past, forged with disappointment and loss, suddenly felt magnified. And what if there was a darker reality behind Nathan's bravado? A layer concealed even from himself, buried beneath the glittering facade of ambition and success that we need to get out of here. The urgency in his voice broke me from spiraling thoughts. But as he led me through a side exit, a lingering question clung to my mind: what more was hidden beneath his disarming charm? Did he truly want this connection, or was I merely a diversion from the storm of his corporate woes? We slipped into the empty hallway, away from the pandemonium. The silence here was no less tense, but the absence of chaos brought with it a glimmer of clarity. Nathan leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, his earlier poise crumpling slightly. I felt an odd flutter in my chest seeing him stripped of bravado, revealing a man teetering between control and chaos. That I didn't expect this night to go like this, he admitted, looking down at his polished shoes as if he wished they could take him far away from here. But I'm really glad you came. His words, meant to comfort, sent a ripple of uncertainty through me. I took a breath, gathering the sprigs of courage that remained. And if you were really glad, why did you let me walk away moments ago? He looked up sharply, a flicker of hurt mingling with frustration crossing his features. I didn't mean to dismiss you. I was just overwhelmed. Or more worried about your business? My voice was sharper than I intended, and I could see the bristle of defensiveness rise in him. We're all worried about something, he replied, a mix of irritation and resignation. But that doesn't mean I don't care about what you're feeling. My heart tightened at the admission, the crack in his armor exposing a truth I hadn't anticipated. For a moment, silence enveloped us, both of us reflecting on the quiet spark that had ignited between us only a short while ago. Had that been a mirage, or could it survive the storms gathering on the horizon? Just as I was about to respond, an unexpected beam of light flooded from the end of the hallway, catching my attention. A charred piece of paper fluttered from the direction of the chaos, landing at our feet. I bent down to pick it up, its surface tarnished and stained with the remnants of a drink. Nathan's brow furrowed as he snatched it from my fingers, unraveling the frantic scrawl across the torn parchment. This was in the boardroom before we came here, he said, his voice low and tense. It's a plan for a hostile takeover. I thought it was just speculation. That I leaned in closer, curiosity gripping me. What does it say? His face paled, shadows dancing across his features. This changes everything, he muttered. If the merger fails, everything I've worked for could collapse. This is what drove him. The anger and chaos tonight. It all makes sense now. My heart raced, fear clenching my insides. Nathan, are you safe? He met my gaze, the intensity in his eyes igniting an unspoken understanding. Not just me. It's all of us. If this has leaked, there's no telling who else might be involved. Then, in a heartbeat, his expression shifted, sorrow bleeding into determination. And if I lose everything, I can't lose you too, not before I fully know what you are to me. His declaration hung in the space between us, heavy with possibilities and unknowns. But before I could respond, sounds of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. A group of suited individuals, faces tightened with purpose, told me that our moment was slipping further from reach. They'll figure this out, he whispered, the conviction in his tone locking me in place even as I wanted to flee. And then, at that exact moment, a realization struck me like an arrow through the heart. I was drawn into a complicated web bigger than either of us. The cascading emotions, the fears, the palpable tension, it was all intertwined in ways I never imagined. Without thinking, I blurted out, I can help you. I'm not afraid. But as those words left my lips, Nathan's eyes widened, a new kind of fear settling in his chest. No. I can't put you in danger because of me. It's not worth it. His refusal echoed through the corridor, shattering the semblance of camaraderie we had begun to build. But before I could retort, the group of men approached, their eyes narrowing, a predatory focus igniting within them. Nathan pulled me back, hiding me behind him as they stepped closer, revealing the last glimmer of hope might just shatter amidst the unexpected dangers that lurked behind every corner. The world as we knew it was frayed, and all we had was the dwindling strength of connection we desperately sought to understand, and perhaps all along, it wasn't about finding an escape, it was about stepping bravely into the storm together, against the tide of chaos threatening to engulf us both. But with that realization came a chilling uncertainty. Would we emerge on the other side, or would this be the end of what we were beginning to forge? The corridor echoed with the hurried footfalls of the men advancing down the hall, a predatory certainty woven into their steps. I felt the walls of our precious moments slanting away, trapping us in a growing storm. As their shadows elongated under the dim lights, I grasped Nathan's arm tightly, as if my hold could anchor him against the waves of chaos that loosed upon us. "Is there another way out?" I whispered, panic threatening to consume my voice, but Nathan stood frozen, faced with the unsettling weight of the moment. "Just stay behind me," he ordered softly, his eyes glued to the approaching figures, irritation bubbling beneath his calm demeanor. "Whatever happens, don't come out." His protective instinct pulled at my heartstrings. What did I mean to him? Just a fleeting distraction, or something deeper? But here and now, those questions dissolved into the noise. As the men neared, their murmured discussions growing clearer. "This was a mistake," one of them said, voice deep and cold, punctuated by the stiff ambition that thickened the air. "We can't let this go on any longer. He needs to learn there are consequences for meddling." Nathan's grip around me tightened, illuminating the fierce spark of determination flashing within his eyes. "I won't let them hurt you," he snapped, drawing me even closer. The suit-clad figures reached us, and I braced for a confrontation, a thousand thoughts racing through my mind. Confrontation, danger, consequences, all of it swelled my heart, intertwining with my own traumas. The burdens I bore felt heavier against the weight of his protection. How was it possible for chaos to anchor something that once felt so fragile? "Mr. Graves," the leading man said, his voice laced with ice. "We need to talk. This charade ends here. Do you really think I'm just going to let you waltz in here and dictate my life, underestimating me at every turn?" Nathan shot back, the fire within him flaring. "You're out of your depth." That I could see a flicker of fear in Nathan's eyes, hidden beneath layers of defiance and strength. His exit strategy was slipping, and panic bubbled again inside of me. "Maybe we should," I began, but he stepped back, holding me just out of sight. "No," he said fiercely. "You're not a part of this," and therein lay the heart-stopping conflict, the unpredictable crossroad where our fates intertwined. He was battling to protect me, yet I felt shackled by the need to wield my own strength. While my heart hammered in time with his looming reality, the lead man smirked, an expression filled with slimy assurance. "The longer you resist, the more dire the circumstances become, Nathan. You should understand, your connections can't save you now. Not your friends or your naive little romantic interests." Those words struck me even harder than the clamor inside. I wondered, could I really just be a romantic interest to him? My breath caught, the painful edges erasing the warmth Nathan had kindled in me. In that frozen moment, before everything unraveled, something unexpectedly warm touched my shoulder, breaking through my Hessian invitation, a nudge from Nathan. "Just trust me. I'll handle this," he murmured, as he stepped forward, putting himself between me and the men, blocking me from their taunts, as if shielding my very existence from their calculated cruelty. But I couldn't take a back seat to a life-or-death whirlwind that was spiraling right in front of us. "I can help," I called out, my voice breaking the tension like a solitary firecracker beneath their imposing presence. For the first time, Nathan turned to me, his eyes wide and desperate, as the men chuckled mockingly. "What training do you have?" One jeered. "Enough," I responded, grounding myself, fighting against the rush of self-doubt. "Nathan, you're not alone in this. You don't have to face them by yourself." The leading man's smirk deepened, a predator's grin anticipating weakness. "You should really listen to him, sweetheart. If he can't protect himself, however will he protect you?" Before Nathan could retort, I stepped forward, heart pounding heavily against the backdrop of hopelessness. "What if I have information that could change this?" All eyes shifted toward me, the tempest of chaos suddenly ebbing as they weighed the gravity of my words. You think you can twist this against us? The leader scoffed. Your inexperience will bury you, but the sincerity in my voice rang louder than doubt. I know things. I overheard people talking. I saw plans. I can help navigate whatever this is. Nathan's grip on my arm tightened painfully as he struggled against the betrayal of hope. What are you doing? He hissed. Just trust me, I implored him, desperation threading through my resolve. After everything we've faced, haven't you seen me strong enough to stand with you? In that pivotal moment, as the weight of uncertainty hung over us, something shifted in the charged atmosphere. I felt a heartbeat sync with my defiance, an understanding blossoming between us, whatever we were growing needing to emerge from amidst the shadows. But before Nathan could answer, the threat of chaos returned, the men regrouping, their smiles fading as they turned into cold suits slipping slowly forward. Enough of this, the leader growled. Well, handle this, with or without your cooperation. Make it easy on yourself. The storm within my chest surged, unwilling to let the fears disguise the flickering light of possibility. Uncertainty remained, but I dared to grasp it. And as the tension spiraled, a haunting realization pricked at my consciousness. In this game of corporate power and personal sacrifice, perhaps the truth I feared, the unfurling reality of my connection to Nathan, was about to be laid bare. Would our battle ignite something more than mere survival? Could we withstand the waves of betrayal and uncertainty, or would this newfound alliance pull us under? Just as they surged closer, the air thickened with silence, and the dim light flickered precariously. I braced myself, the question lingering like a bitter afterthought, threatening to drain the last drops of hope. Would we be able to find our way through the storm together, or was this a moment where bonds would fray before they had a chance to form? The bitter chill of reality drifted through the air like smoke, intermingling with my apprehension. I braced myself for the oncoming tide as their calculated movements approached, the leader's eyes narrowing, framing the moment with his icy veneer. Behind me, I could feel Nathan's pulse quicken, resonating with my own, a reminder that the very foundation of everything we'd begun to build was precariously balanced on the edge of peril. Suddenly, the world around me felt muffled, as if I were submerged in water. As the men closed in, the sharp edges of their intentions cut through the silence like knives, words spilling from their lips like venomous whispers. Consequences, meddling, failure. They targeted Nathan with sword-like precision, and as they moved closer, I felt the urgency drip from the air, seeping into my very bones. Enough. Nathan's voice, though firm, carried the weight of someone caught between desperation and defiance. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for something intangible, a connection that stretched far beyond mere acquaintance, shimmering just out of reach. Maybe you should listen to him, I interrupted, mustering all the strength I could summon. I can help. I know things. It felt audacious, claiming any semblance of knowledge. The men's laughter felt like shards of ice, mocking and cutting. But I pressed on. I had to show them I was more than just the naive romantic interest they thought I was. What do you want from him? I can negotiate. The laughter faded into incredulity as the men exchanged glances, the leader's cold smirk dimming just slightly. You really think you can bargain with us? He sneered, flicking a dismissive hand toward Nathan. He can't protect himself, and you think he'll be able to protect you? The suffocating weight of that reality passed over us like a storm cloud, and I could almost feel Nathan's frustration mingling with my own fear. Do you really see me so frail? I shot back, my voice steadying despite the erratic drumming of my heart. I am standing right here, willing to fight for him. And this, I gestured wildly, encompassing the tensions that coiled around us. This can't be all that life has to offer. There has to be a way. Nathan turned to me, his expression wrestling between anger and exhaustion. You don't understand, he whispered urgently, eyes glimmering with something deeper, fear intertwined with a tether of hope. This is not your fight. You don't know what these people are capable of. Neither do you, I replied, my voice softer, yet carrying the necessary weight. But sitting and waiting for consequences won't change anything. I want to help. I want to fight for us. The word us spilled out unguarded, sparking a glimmer in Nathan's gaze, even as trepidation carved deeper lines into his brow, but the moment shivered as the men regained their audacity. Sweetheart, let me save you the trouble, the leader said, stepping forward with deliberate menace. There's no bargaining with consequences. In a world like this, victims don't get to negotiate, and just as his leering smile bared itself, a sudden movement caught my attention, a flicker of light from the edge of the corridor entrance. The faint sound of a voice seeped through the shadows, punctuating the tension with a promise of disruption. Then, a figure emerged, a silhouette sharp against the dim light. Stop right there. The new arrival's voice resonated, powerful and commanding. A thud echoed as the suit-clad men turned, caught between surprise and disbelief. The interloper stepped forward, embodying the firm resolve of someone prepared to dismantle the impending chaos. With an impossible rush, I felt a jolt of hope weaving through the air, a hint that perhaps there were layers of this labyrinth we hadn't yet explored. But as Nathan swiveled to gauge this unexpected savior, dread washed over me. Would this intrusion be our salvation, or would it deepen the chasm of our struggle? The leader's eyes flared with rage, the brief pause in their thrust of confrontation overshadowed by his blatant dismissal. You think you can just barge in here uninvited? You'll regret it, the newcomer spoke again, unflinching, as power surged through his demeanor. You overestimate your position here. We both know the stakes, and running this little charade ends now. Nathan shot a questioning look, desperate for clarity, as the shadows danced ominously around us. But my heart raced, not just for the danger awaiting us, but for the risks that lay behind curtains yet to open. Just as I felt a rush of exhilaration, buoyed by the appearance of unexpected help, a horrifying realization struck like a cold wave. This might not just be a conflict to protect Nathan. I could feel the truth unfurling, tangled in my gut, the deeper connections, implications, and sacrifices lurking within this new ally could unravel everything we'd attempted to piece together. Suddenly, Nathan's expression shifted from uncertainty to something resembling resolve. This is about more than just me, isn't it? He breathed, his voice barely audible over the tension crackling around us. The new figure squared his shoulders, casting an understanding look our way, as if he bore knowledge of our entanglements that we ourselves were yet to fathom. It's about all of us, what's left of us, he replied, and my heart sank. I could almost hear the unsaid words thundering in the air, connections forged in fire and frailty, a bond described only by unspoken glances and lingering embraces, yet bound now by a tumultuous fate. The leader's sneer returned, venomous with contempt. You think we haven't accounted for him? You're making a mistake. And mistakes tend to come with consequences. The words hung heavily as the looming future twisted before me. Each syllable echoed a promise of chaos, an unearthing of truths I wasn't prepared to confront just yet. The unpredictable whip of fate drew tighter, looming over Nathan and me, and before we could navigate our thoughts, the whirlwind began anew. Could we truly stand together against the storms? Understanding sparked in me, realization blossoming painfully. This nightmare was no longer confined to Nathan's shadowy past alone. It was a mirror reflecting my own unacknowledged battles, my own fears of love and loss, now poised at the brink of confronting shared darkness. And just then, as the facade of resolve wavered in the chaos, everything tightened and shifted, a whisper of fate hanging in the air like a dagger poised to fall. What truly lay behind the new arrival's steadfastness? Were we on the precipice of everything we dared to hope for, or had we strayed into a path that would irrevocably alter our fates? Every uncertainty rushed forward, drowning the flickering light of hope in the wake of our countless sacrifices, and we stood teetering in the edge of survival or an even deeper abyss. The air crackled with tension, the impending storm weaving its way into the very fabric of my being. Around us, time seemed suspended in a precarious balance between fear and the glimmer of hope that flickered through the shadows cast by our unexpected savior. My heart raced as I tried to grasp the implications of Nathan's whispered realization. The stakes were higher than I had dared to imagine. As the newcomer squared off against the leader, I scrutinized the man in front of us. He looked familiar yet enigmatic, his face a blend of determination and weariness, as if he were an old soul constantly grappling with shadows of the past. There was an authenticity in his eyes, a depth that belied the role of a mere rescuer. It stirred something within me. He might be the answer to our prayers or another layer of conflict yet to unfold. Do you really think you can intimidate us into compliance? The newcomer said, his voice steady as he challenged the leader's spiteful confidence. You've used fear as your weapon for far too long. A snarl twisted the leader's lips, and I could feel Nathan's body tense beside me, his muscles coiling like a spring. You think righteousness can save you here? he retorted, but there was a tremor in his bravado. Shifting my gaze between the two men, I realized this confrontation was about more than just power. It was about the choices we made, the lines we drew, and the courage to challenge the very foundations of our lives. Nathan's breath hitched as time stretched in the looming silence. The air was stagnant, charged with unspoken fears and a sense of inevitability. But even as the threat lingered, a flicker of resolve sparked in Nathan's eyes, a flicker mirrored in my own heart, kindled by the unknown ally standing firm against the tide. Enough with the posturing, the voice from our savior cut sharply through the air. This isn't just about you and your little empire. Nathan's life and by extension, all of ours hangs in the balance. We're not walking away from this without a fight. That I felt the heat of determination ripple through me, intertwining with my own anxious hearts. There was something profoundly inspiring about standing together against a common enemy. We don't have to do this alone, I declared, lifting my chin defiantly. You may think that scaring us is your only tool, but strength comes from connection, not fear. The leader approached slowly, eyes narrowing as though sizing us up for an inevitable clash. That kind of naivety will cost you dearly, he warned, his tone almost mocking. Or it could save us all, Nathan replied, his voice gathering strength, emboldened by our collective resolve. I could see tendrils of hope enveloping him, merging our destinies in ways I still struggled to understand, but as the confrontation escalated, I felt an unsettling shift. The newcomer, for all his bravado, seemed burdened by a history we hadn't yet unraveled. There was a flicker of vulnerability in his stance, an unspoken weight he carried that went beyond mere duty. My heart thudded loudly as I struggled to comprehend the layers upon layers wrapped in this moment. Suddenly, I noticed something glimmering. The leader's finger twisted ominously toward Nathan, like a dark omen. You really think you can protect him? You have no idea what I'm capable of. You've stirred a storm you can't control. Try me, Nathan challenged, fists clenched, his commitment igniting the air. But his bravado hung tenuously as the remnants of fear and uncertainty flickered behind his fierce gaze. I wanted to reach out, reassure him that we would navigate this together. In that tense moment, the flicker of connection between us ignited, urging me to step into the fray beside him. My voice, steadied by a newfound courage, broke free. Tell us what you know, who you are, and how we can put an end to this. What are we truly up against? The new arrival shifted, instantly grasping the urgency woven into my words. There are things you don't understand, truths buried deep that could change everything you've ever believed, he began carefully, revealing a sliver of history. That might explain the darkness looming around us, but before he could continue, the screech of metal filled the air like a cold bolt. A figure emerged from the shadows, flanking the doorway, holding a weapon poised at shoulder height. A chill swept through me at the sight of more chaos descending upon us, wind whip curling around me as I instinctively gripped Nathan's arm. Not so fast, the new assailant sneered, a grimace twisting his mouth. You're making a mistake, all of you. You've wandered too far into a territory that will consume you whole. Nathan's tension shifted as his protective instincts kicked in. Stay back, he warned, stepping slightly in front of me, a shield against the escalating threat. Desperation clawed within me, urging solidarity against the rising tide of chaos. No, I exclaimed, my heart racing. We can work together. But just as the words left my mouth, uncertainty wrapped around my heart like copper chains. Would we find a way through the darkness, or were we simply inviting more danger upon ourselves? The newcomer locked eyes with me, an understanding sparking in the depths of his gaze, tethering our unspoken fears and hopes in a moment that felt like a whisper of fate. We need to share everything we know, or all of this is just delaying the inevitable. I struggled to breathe as a reality descended. This wasn't just a battle for Nathan's life anymore. It was a fight for all of us, a journey through twisted paths we were only beginning to comprehend. As I stood on the precipice with him, my heart churning with dread and defiance, I could see the fragile threads of connection strung between us, shimmering like embers waiting to ignite. But then it dawned upon me, every shared secret could shatter us or grant us the strength we desperately needed. As fear permeated the air around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come, and so we stood, poised at the edge of understanding, where the next revelation could slice through the bonds we'd formed, revealing something deeper and darker lurking behind our masks, a truth that could unravel not just our fight, but who we had dared to become. The atmosphere felt electric, pulsating with the weight of uncertainty. My heart raced as the new assailant tightened his grip on the weapon, the world around us narrowing into a tunnel of fear. I could scarcely breathe, the heaviness of my dread mingling with the fervent hope that had ignited when Nathan took a step forward. "Put it down," the newcomer urged, his voice calm yet commanding. He stepped sideways, creating an invisible line of solidarity between the two of us. I felt a flicker of assurance amid the chaos, anchored by the knowledge that for the first time in ages, I wasn't alone. The leader looked beyond our newcomer, calculating his next move with predatory intensity. "You think you can intimidate us, but strength is ultimately an illusion," he spat, his demeanor cloaked in menace. "You cannot protect what you have no right to defend." The atmosphere thickened as Nathan's body stiffened, a mixture of determination and fear radiating off of him. I swayed slightly, drawn into the whirlpool of his unspoken fears and my own concerns swirling like winds before a tempest. There was a crack in the veil that shielded us, teetering precariously on the brink of revelation, and I sensed that the truth could be as volatile as the storm brewing above. "Tell us what we need to know." My voice rang clear, desperation igniting a courage I didn't know I possessed. I saw the flicker of surprise in the new assailant's eyes, momentarily surprised by my audacity, and it fueled me further, a blaze forcing its way through the shadows. "We can't fight blind, we need the whole history, everything." That a moment passed, fraught with suffocating tension, before the newcomer turned to look at Nathan and me. "You must understand, there's a web of lies woven into what you know," he said with a weight that felt like thunder. "The leader's strength stemmed from secrets, the ones you've buried deep." "Secrets?" Nathan echoed, glancing nervously between us. "What do you mean? What are you not telling us?" I could feel the anxiety radiating from him. The two of us were pulled together by a tether of vulnerability. Yet, if more shadows concealed our understanding of this moment, we were bound to be walking headlong into the unknown. The assailant took a shallow breath. "Long ago, our families were intertwined, but it ended in betrayal. Bound by blood and choice, the power hunger poisoned us all. He thinks he alone holds the key to it," but his voice faltered, and for a moment, the bravado slipped, revealing sorrow. "But we must choose to break the cycle." "Break the cycle?" I whispered, the weight of his words sinking into me like stones. Had our lives been dictated by sins of the past, our fates sealed before we even drew breath? It was overwhelming, and yet there was a strange sense of clarity in his confession, as though the fog had lifted just long enough for us to glimpse a path forward. The leader sneered, mouth curling back in contempt. "What a naive dream. Your weakness will only drag you further into the abyss. Choosing to deny the truth will not free you from the chains that bind you." Then, in a horrible moment of clarity, something twisted within me. "You don't understand what we're capable of," I announced, my voice trembling yet fierce. "You think you can keep us in darkness? No longer. We are here because we want to fight back." The assailant nodded slowly, awestruck by my unexpected fervor. "You can, but only if you reclaim the truths meant to empower you." Just as a sliver of resolve began to diffuse my anxiety, the leader edged closer, his demeanor more dangerous than ever. "Then let's see how far your courage carries you," he said, and in that shadowed moment, his hand flicked as if it were a signal. Bracing myself as chaos erupted, crashing like waves upon the shore, instinct propelled me to Nathan's side. The new assailant leaped forward to confront the danger, but his movement also brought him dangerously close to the weapon pointed at us. Without warning, the leader's followers lunged forward, three figures emerging in a flash of movement. I could hear Nathan's choked breath echoing, adrenaline surging through my veins in concert with the panic swirling around me. "Look out!" I screamed, my heart hammering as I lunged, kettling toward the others, intent on creating a barrier between Nathan and the oncoming threat. As I pressed into chaos, I felt solid arms around me, Nathan's, fierce and protective, but then the glint of metal caught my eye, a flash echoing through the world around us. One of the figures was moving too fast, too unpredictably. I realized far too late that within this storm, even tiny moments of clarity were entwined with danger. In the chaos of adrenaline and fear, my voice pierced through, calling out against the torrent of pandemonium. "We know you're afraid. But we won't bow to cruelty. Stand with us." Yet the future felt like a fragile line, paper thin, and with every second ticking away, I couldn't shake the feeling that a hidden truth would soon rise above the chaos, sharper than the tension firing through the air. And just as I formulated a plan within my racing thoughts, a blaring shatter echoed from behind the door to our fragile sanctuary had burst open, revealing a shadowy silhouette standing against the blinding light. A startling realization settled in: the enemy might not be the only one willing to perform treachery. My heart sank like a stone, a chilling notion clawing its way to the surface. Things were about to spiral beyond our control. In that moment, at the precipice where fight met fear, I felt a new weight pressing upon me, a choice latent with consequences that could tear our fragile alliance apart or fortify us against the inevitable storm. As the light spilled across the room, illuminating the faces around me, I braced for another twist in the journey we now shared, one that could unravel everything we'd ever known. The light flooded the room with an almost divine brilliance, momentarily blinding me as a figure emerged from the shadows. The chaos around us faded, the threats momentarily suspended as I struggled to focus on the newcomer. My heart raced with the potential of hope, yet the dread gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. Who dared to walk in on this turmoil now? As the silhouette stepped into the dim light, recognition washed over me like a wave. It was Victor the billionaire I thought was an indifferent dreamer hidden behind layers of privilege. Yet he looked different now, gone were the polished airs of that aloof entrepreneur. In his eyes burned an intensity one had never witnessed, a fire ignited by the crucible of this moment. "Nathan," he cried, his voice ripping through the air with urgency. "Get down." Before I could process the command, he hurled himself into the fray, limbs moving with an agility that belied his imposing stature. Time wound itself around me, slow and torturous, as my mind reeled with the realization that my life was entwined with a man who lived far removed from the perils we faced. Victor had a choice, an option: to turn away, to retreat into the comforts of his wealth. Yet here he was, stepping into the throes of danger for us. Chaos erupted anew as Victor engaged the leader's followers, and I caught Nathan looking at him with a mix of awe and confusion. My heart fluttered as I glimpsed a rare moment wherein fear morphed into something promising, an unexpected unity forged in the fire of adversity. "Stay close," Nathan shouted, lunging toward me, wrapping his arm protectively around my shoulders. I saw in his eyes a fierce determination matching Victor's. Our trio bore the weight of three different worlds colliding, but drawn together by shared defiance against a common threat. That I asked, this really the time for heroics? I managed, shaking my head in disbelief even as a measure of warmth coursed through me at Victor's sudden courage. "What's your plan?" Nathan pressed, casting a wary glance at the violent engagement unfolding just feet away. A jab, a block, a swift sidestep. Victor's movements were a well-choreographed dance of survival and conviction. "Greater numbers mean we have to reshape the chaos," I exclaimed, fueled by a new surge of hope. "We can't just fight back, we have to disrupt their rhythm. If we create disarray, we can turn the tide." Victor caught my eye, nodding even as he fought. "Then we need something to break the tension. Their focus is intently on us, but if we can distract them." His voice trailed off, aware that our combined fates were as tangled as the fray itself. A flurry of ideas flooded my mind. Observing the tumult of limbs, I spied a stack of crates against the wall, precariously teetering, like a dragon waiting to be awakened. "There," I pointed, hardly believing myself. "If we can push those crates, we could create a barrier and disrupt their formation." With a firm grasp still on my shoulder, Nathan's gaze locked onto mine, entwined with a channel of trust. "Let's do it," Victor continued, engaging the enemy, drawing their attention while we maneuvered toward the crates, our hearts pounding to the rhythm of impending reckoning. I could feel a renewed sense of resolve as we reached the stack, adrenaline and hope intermingling. But just as we pushed with all our might, a chilling laugh reverberated through the chaos. The leader had stepped away from the melee, his lips curling in cruel amusement. "You think you can escape your fate with mere distractions?" he taunted, his eyes glinting with malice. "The cycle does not break so easily." The crate swayed dangerously, and panic bloomed in my chest. "Focus," I urged, pushing harder. We braced against the wood, encased in an unyielding shell of fear and hope intertwined. "Do it," Victor shouted, urgency lacing his tone, but the ground shifted beneath us, the universe holding its breath. In that moment, the world felt split in two, one side pulsed with possibility, the other trapped in the inescapable tension of our reality. With one final push, the crates toppled, crashing down. and creating a cloud of chaos as they fell. But before we could even celebrate our success, everything shattered again. A deafening explosion and unfamiliar sound that retched through the air flashed just outside our sanctuary, causing the walls to tremor and echo with an unsettling response. With a gasp, I stumbled back, the cacophony overpowering. My heart dropped as the dust settled, revealing a new path unfolding. Who had initiated that disruption? In a world still governed by shadows, outside forces shifted the balance in ways I could never have anticipated. As Nathan steadied me, our eyes locked, and the flicker of worry ignited something deeper. What was that? He whispered, panic hidden among the resolve. The weight of uncertainty dragged me down like an anchor. I could feel shadows creeping closer, unseen forces threatening to swallow the fragile light we clung to. Victor's valiant heart battling alongside us, yet even he looked shaken, staring into the unknown. I realized we had crossed a threshold into uncharted territory. The enemies before us were bad enough, but now another layer of mystery peeled back, layers that intertwined with truths waiting in the dark. In one shattering moment, the turmoil shifted, walls of loyalty and betrayal loomed just beyond our reach. And as I looked into the flickering shadows, I felt an unsettling truth. The greatest enemies might not be the ones wielding weapons but those whispering from the darker corners of our own hearts. The cliffhanger held tight as realization dawned. The echoes of the past ambushed us at every spin, bringing with them a new confession, an unsettling whisper that told me the truths we needed to uncover to forge our path were riddled with challenges I could never have foreseen. The dust settled slowly, transforming the air into a surreal haze that blurred the line between clarity and confusion. My mind raced to catch up with the disarray around us, and all I could hear was a dull roar echoing in my ears. Victor, though clearly shaken, remained resolute, his gaze flitting between Nathan and me, assessing the damage of our sudden disruption. What was that? He shouted over the residual chaos, his voice edged with a mix of fear and determination. Nathan shook his head, still holding tightly onto me as if we were each other's last lifeline. We need to find out, he urged, his typical bravado faltering in the face of uncertainty. Determined to find clarity, I blinked through the haze, trying to pinpoint the source of the explosion. Anxiety gnawed at my insides, but instinct propelled me forward. Let's check it out. We can't just sit here. With a unifying spark of courage ignited by the adrenaline still pulsing through us, we edged cautiously forward toward the exit. I caught sight of a figure stepping through the crumbled remains of a door, cloaked in shadow but unmistakably present. It was a woman, her features concealed by debris and a ragged cloak, yet something in her stance jolted recognition. That I began, dread creeping in. Sophie, Nathan squinted against the disorienting light. What's she doing here? He muttered, as an uneasy tension coiled around us. How would I know? I replied, desperate for answers, but the truth was that I hadn't seen Sophie for weeks. Once a fierce ally, she had been drifting ever since the stakes escalated, making her disappearance an ominous mark on our timeline. Yet now, here she was, her presence a mixture of hope and dread weaving through the tension. Victor expertly scrambled back to his feet as she stepped into a semblance of view, dirt smudged on her cheeks but her gaze alight with determination. I had to make a choice, she called out, her voice firm despite the evident fatigue lining her features. I couldn't watch this chaos unfold without trying to intervene. This isn't a game, Sophie, Nathan exclaimed, frustration rising like bile in his throat. You don't get to just play hero now. Maybe that's exactly what we need. Sophie shot back, her eyes sharp with defiance, the flicker of old flames sparking life within them. We're on the brink of something catastrophic, and I believe this is just the beginning. You need all the help you can get, but it comes with a price. That I felt Victor's shoulder brush mine as he stepped forward, his demeanor cool but intrigued. What do you mean by that? Sophie took a deep breath, visibly steeling herself before divulging. They're going to come for you three, but they're not the only players in this game. I've learned details that expose the threads tying us all together. The powers that be won't just let us walk away from this. We must prepare, and I have a plan. Nathan's brow furrowed, skepticism etched deep across his face. You expect us to just believe that? After you vanished, you show up with cryptic warnings and what else? The air thickened with an electric tension that threatened to suffocate. I could see Sophie's resolve wavering, and suddenly, the past rushed back. A friendship once built on trust was now splintered by uncertainty. I needed to steady the storm brewing between them, to seek out clarity amidst their growing animosity. Sophie, what do you know? If we're to face whatever comes next, we need transparency. We can't fight the shadows if we're not all on the same page. I implored, hoping my voice could tether the tumult of emotions swirling that a glimmer of vulnerability flickered in her gaze. Fine, she relented, crossing her arms tightly. But you need to understand what I'm up against. The leader we're fighting against, he's connected more than you know. Tonight isn't about just rescuing yourselves, it's about survival. Victor took a cautious step forward, the weight of a world shifting in his eyes. Then let's hear it. Every detail could mean the difference between life and death, but the shadows that moved in the periphery of my vision felt like more than just the encroaching threat. An icy coil wrapped around my heart as I sensed deeper divides emerging, loyalties drawn in intricate patterns, with betrayals hiding behind familiar faces. Together we had faced challenges, but now the stakes were mounting, and every revelation could lead us further from solace. The clash between our hopes and the reality of deception pulsed palpably in the air. I gazed, momentarily lost in the weave of our collective pain, yearning for resolution that felt just out of reach. As Sophie began to speak, a cold chill danced across my skin, a whisper of a truth I hadn't yet grasped, an underlying tension simmering beneath our surface. You see, there's something I haven't told you, something that changes everything, she murmured, and in that heartbeat, as I waited for the revelation that could bind us or shatter us, I found myself teetering on the edge of an emotional precipice. What more was looming on the horizon? How fragile was the alliance we had forged as we danced around our own shadows, glimmers of hope and dread twined together, an intricate web that promised a crossroad I could never predict. That single moment sliced through our fragile truce, revealing a nebulous constellation of choices that could leave us stronger or farewell us into disarray. The truth, I sensed, would reshape our realities in the most profound way. And as Sophie hesitated, the weight of her unspoken secret crushed down all around us. With every second, the threat grew closer, the shadows darker, and our hearts more vulnerable than before. The air shimmered thick with tension, a tapestry of fear and anticipation woven tightly around us as Sophie hesitated. Her eyes darted between Nathan and Victor, dark clouds of uncertainty hovering over the three of us. What she was about to reveal was a powerful catalyst. Would it bring us together, or shatter the fragile alliance we had painstakingly built? Listen, she finally breathed, her voice trembling but steady. The man leading this chaos is not just some corporate puppet. He's within our circle, hidden in plain sight, wearing a mask that has deceived us all. Her words hit like a thunderclap. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to process the implications. What do you mean? Who? I urged, the urgency rushing through my veins. Nathan's protective stance shifted slightly, an edge of defensiveness creeping back into his demeanor. The merger, Sophie continued, her brow knitted with focus. It's more than a business move. It's a strategic play for power, and the leader has been positioning himself as a savior while pulling the strings behind the scenes. He takes from the chaos to consolidate his own power. Confusion flickered across Nathan's face. I don't understand. Who is he? Your father, she blurted, the words shattering our atmosphere like glass breaking under pressure. The weight of her revelation slammed down around us, an avalanche of implications cascading forward. I could see the disbelief flicker in Nathan's eyes, a rush of emotions battling for dominance. My father? He echoed, an incredulous tone lacing his voice. No, it can't be. Suddenly, everything spiraled out of control. Memories rushed back, those moments of confusion and tension that Nathan had endured, the shadows lurking around his father's empire. We're caught in a web of misplaced allegiance, Sophie pressed on, her voice ringing with urgency. It's all intricately tied together. The takeover isn't just a financial ploy, it's about dismantling anything that stands against him. This isn't just about business, it's personal. I glanced at Victor, who was still absorbing the reality crashing down around us. If Nathan's father is behind this, then what hope do we have? His voice held a layer of fear I hadn't heard before, and the alliance we had seemed to slip, as fragile as gossamer threads. Hope comes from understanding the truth, Sophie replied, her tone soft yet firm. We have to confront it head on. We may be caught in the cycle, but acknowledging where it comes from is the first step toward breaking it. Before Nathan could respond, a loud crash echoed down the corridor, reverberating through the air like a painful reminder that danger still lurked just beyond the shadows we faced. The moment hung heavy around USA mirror reflecting the chaos we had entered, and suddenly every decision we had made felt acutely gathered at this intersection of despair. Enough. We can't let this consume us, Nathan said, frustration bubbling up once more. I won't let my father drag us into this nightmare. We have to fight back. His words ignited a fire within me, and I nodded in agreement, a fierce determination boiling in tandem with his own. Then let's hold on to the truth, I declared. Sophie, if you have any plans that could help, we need them now. Sophie took a deep breath, steeling herself against the pressure. I have something that could help us navigate this, she said, reaching into the tattered pocket of her cloak. She pulled out a small flash drive, offering it like a lifeline cast across turbulent waters. This contains emails, meetings, and the evidence connecting your father to the takeover and the chaos that's unfolded. It's damning, and we need it to expose his machinations. Hope flared momentarily, but it was joined by a pang of fear as I recalled the dark reality surrounding the use of power. But how do we use that without putting ourselves in danger? Timing is everything, Victor said, claiming the flash drive from Sophie with a sense of urgency. We need to gather allies who can back us in this fight. We can't take them down alone, but with the right support, we stand a chance. Nathan nodded fervently, taking a step closer. So we prepare and strike fast. My father might think himself untouchable, but he hasn't accounted for all of us coming together. It's time he sees the petty game's end. In that moment, a warmth spread through me, a new seed of strength emerging from the ashes of confrontation. We weren't just fighting for ourselves, we had become the embodiment of something deeper, a rebellion against a cycle that sought to imprison us all. But as the clamor in the hall did not cease, the storm brewed thick with uncertainty and peril. We need to move. Every second we stand here is a second closer he can tighten his grip, I breathed, glancing at all of them, the alliance forged in perils that felt more potent than any single individual action. I looked into Nathan's eyes and saw a flicker of something deeper, something I hadn't yet acknowledged in this chaotic web we had been navigating together. Together, I whispered, and he nodded firmly. But just as we shifted into motion, the corridor flooded with light, voices echoing down the hall. We know you're in here. A barked command echoed, an order hurried across the expanse seeking to capture the remnant of courage we had found. The heaviness returned like a dark cloak, wrapping tight as panic surged. We have to go, now. Nathan shouted, and just like that, we plunged into the chaotic unknown. We fled down the crumbling hall, every step echoing against the visceral tension of our shared resolve. The revelation that had bound us now served as a beacon through the storm, a promise of unity against the darkness. Racing against the ticking clock of fate, we ran side by side. Sparks of adrenaline coursed through me as we intertwined our hopes and doubts. I felt connected in ways I could never have anticipated. But even as we escaped the clutches of fear creeping behind us, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease layered beneath our stride. Finally, we burst through a heavy door that led us into the underground parking garage, our sanctuary slipping into view. But that was where the storms collided. The weight of reality pressed heavily against my heart as I turned to face Nathan. No matter what happens, you have to trust me, I said, desperate to carve out an unbreakable bond amidst the chaos that loomed. I do, but there's so much we still don't know, he replied, eyes welling with conviction. We'll find a way through this. Together. We climbed into the car, the engine roaring to life as the wall between us and the chaos melted away. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, another realization uncoiled within me. Stakes had risen dramatically, pulling back the curtain on a moment where everything we faced ahead was entangled deeper than just Nathan's father or industry politics. A flicker of hope ignited within me, glimmering against the horizon, realizing that perhaps the bonds we forged in fire and darkness could lead us to fight against the tyranny that had woven itself into our lives. As the distance from our past folded behind us, we powered through the haze of uncertainty, the voices calling behind us fading into a twisted memory. And as I glanced back to Nathan and then to Victor, I felt an inkling rising, the realization that sometimes the most powerful fights were ones born from shared connections. Sometimes, taking that leap into the unknown, hand in hand with others, was the only way to reclaim what was lost. The road ahead challenged us. The truth we had yet to uncover held galaxies of connection buried beneath surface uncertainties. But one thing was undeniable: while the chaos roared behind us, the urge to reclaim our destinies surged forward, carrying our hearts into the light of a new dawn. The shadows might linger, and the storm would chase us. But fists clenched together, we sped toward tomorrow as the whispers of the past intertwined with the promise of unity against the darkness.